Are you ready for some football? You better be, because the 2022 preseason for the Los Angeles Rams is about to begin. Begins this week. They play the Chargers at SoFi Stadium on Saturday night at 7 p.m. It's going to be a Chargers home game, but it should be a pretty good atmosphere out there. Hi, my name is Steve Ramirez. I've decided after 30 years of covering sports from high school, small colleges, and did some major college coverage with covering, was the number 2 man on the Rose Bowl beat or number 2 man on the UCLA beat for 5 years, and also was the lead writer for our news group's coverage of the Rose Bowl for 5 years, and also did 2 BCS national championship games. When the national championship game was just the bowl championship series, the era just before what we now have is the college football playoff. But that's me. And so I decided I'd like to just, whenever I want to talk about a subject on sports, can post it here on YouTube. And I talked a few days ago about USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten, and now with the Rams opener coming up, I thought I would talk about the Rams. Obviously, coming off the big Super Bowl win, which all Ram fans, including myself, are pretty happy with that. But now it's a new season, and you got to start the climb up the mountain all over again. So begins this week, this weekend. Although don't expect Matthew Stafford or Cam Akers or Cooper Kupp or Aaron Donald to be playing. They won't be playing. As you know, during the Sean McVay era, he doesn't play his starters or anyone who might start, like, say, a Logan Bruss, the Rams' top draft pick out of Wisconsin, who's competing for a starting job at right guard. We might see him, but I've heard some reports that they might just rely on training camp and practices for how they'll grade him and whether he'll start this year. But we might see him. We'll see. That's the big difference between exhibition games now and when I first started following football when I was a young 8-year-old being hooked on the Rams in 1969. That was the Fearsome Foursome team, and Roman Gabriel and Jack Snow. And actually my favorite player back then was a receiver by the name of Wendell Tucker, who was kind of the speed burner. You know, my first Ram game was in 1969 against the 49ers. I think it was mid-season. And first play of the game, Wendell Tucker caught, I think it was something like a 93-yard touchdown pass from Roman Gabriel. And then I was kind of hooked and got hooked on the Rams, and a lot of disappointment in 69 and into the 70s. But it was that's what made winning the Super Bowl last year so exciting. After all these years, they finally were able to come through. But now, like I said, it's a new season. We got the exhibition season, and like I said, don't expect the starters to play this weekend on Saturday, but it's a good opportunity for some of the other players who who are on the cusp of whether they might make the roster or not. Gives the coaches a chance to see them at game speed. Practice is one thing, game speed is quite another. And so this is their opportunity, especially number 3 Rams receiver behind Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson is Wes Jefferson. And he's hurt right now. They do expect him back for the Week 1 game against the Buffalo Bills at SoFi Stadium. But this is an opportunity for the guys further down the depth chart to impress the coaches and to get some playing time during the year. It's probably a big week for but right now, because Jefferson is out on the depth chart, the third receiver is Ben Skoranek. He had some playing time last year. Some people called him the hands of stone, but I kind of liked him. He's a big target, and those are always important, especially in the red zone. He's just got to learn to be able to catch the ball more, be more trustworthy from the quarterback, and so we'll probably get to see him. Tutu Atwell, who was the Rams' top draft pick last year, but got hurt early in the year, and they originally drafted him kind of to be the speed guy, the guy who kind of can stretch the defense, and he's back healthy this year, and he's had a pretty good training camp. He's kind of made some big plays down the field during practice, both from Stafford and John Wolford, and so these 3 exhibition games will be big for him, because I'm sure if he can show that he's worthy of a spot in the rotation, to have someone that the defense has to worry about. I've always said even it's important to have that speed guy to stretch the field, because even if the defense doesn't believe they're going to throw to him most of the time, they've got to account for him, and that just kind of opens up everything underneath for Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson to make their moves and do what they do best. And Kupp, as you know, is big on catching the short, turning a short pass into a big gain. He's so not just elusive, but he's just hard to get to the ground. So someone like this game and the other 2 preseason games are going to be big for Tutu Atwell and some of the other receivers who are trying to make the regular roster, like Lance McCutcheon and Warren Jackson. They're right now number 3 and number 4 in the depth chart, so they're kind of iffy whether they would make the 53. It just depends on the other positions, and how many. If you get someone who can play more than one position, that kind of helps other parts of the roster. So that's why it's always important. You kind of look for those guys who play more than one position, guys who can play special teams. That allows to keep more on your regular roster, because you don't want to, someone you really like, you don't want to expose to the practice squad, because any team can poach someone from practice squad and they have to keep him on their regular roster. The minute they drop him, then he goes back to the practice squad, to the team he came from. But if there's a player that you really like and you don't want to take the chance of losing him, you got to put him on the regular roster, and sometimes that's easier said than done, just based on numbers. So that's kind of on some of those guys who are in the 3rd or 4th string on the depth chart. Those are the ones to look out for on Saturday and throughout the preseason. Speaking of the depth chart right now, it lists Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson both as starting running backs. Obviously, they'll alternate them depending, once the season starts, they'll alternate them. depending on the situation. And right now, Jake Funk, who's back from injury, is the number 2 running back, where rookie out of Notre Dame, Kyron Williams, who just came back from an injury, is number 3. But I keep reading and hearing that Kyron Williams will be the number 3 running back, unless, depending on how what happens in the preseason, how they play. But I think where they drafted Kyron Williams, the kind of usually teams get kind of dedicated to that spot, and they might find a spot for Jake Funk, who's a pretty good special teams player. So we'll see how that goes. On the defense side, most of us don't expect any of the starters to play at all. Some of the young players who have been impressive in training camp, Russ Yeast, I think he had a pick 6 on 11-11 drills the other day. So he's someone to look out for in these games. And so that's really about the depth chart and what to look out for. Also, I should mention Bryce Perkins, who was last year the 3rd-string quarterback, who I can't quite remember, but I don't think he ever made the game day roster. I think he was always inactive, but they were afraid. He had such a great exhibition season last year. They did not want to expose him to be claimed off waivers or poached from the practice squad. So he'll probably remain the 3rd-string quarterback, and I still expect him to make the regular roster, just not be on the game day roster, barring injury. But he's a very athletic quarterback, and it'll be interesting to see if he can repeat what he did last year. He did turn a lot of heads, and I think initially the Rams had planned to put him on the practice squad, but after the way they played, there was really no way they could expose him to that, because, like I said, you put someone on the practice squad and you can lose him. So kind of excited about the game, even though none of the starters are going to play, but it's going to be very interesting. And like I said before, that's kind of the big difference between when I started following. I remember I think I didn't go to my first exhibition game until the 80s, until I was in my 20s. But I would always, back when I was a kid, I would listen to the exhibition games on the radio, and then they would be on replay, I think, at 10 o'clock at night or something like that. And teams played their starters a little. Back then there were 6 exhibition games, and teams played their starters maybe a series or 2 in the first game, and then maybe the whole first quarter, the second and third game, and then by the 5th exhibition game they played maybe 3 quarters, and then they were held out. I think some were held out for the last game. It just the fact that there was now just 3. It's hard to fathom playing 6 exhibition games. That's almost half a regular season, and that they played 6, which back then they only played 14 regular season games. So that is almost half a season there. And I even remember reading quotes from other coaches of how they said, well, he played really good in the exhibition season. And they said it like it was a regular season game. So that shows you how the world has changed. Some teams are still playing their starters a little bit, depending on the situation. I know in the Hall of Fame game last week, the Raiders didn't They played Josh Jacobs, but they didn't play Devontae Adams. They didn't play Derek Carr. So the world is kind of completely changed, but it's still football, and it should be fun to watch the game on Saturday, because from now on, from the NFL, from this weekend until February, we're going to have football. I think the week after the third exhibition game, I think the week of September 4th, weekend of September 3rd and 4th, there won't be NFL, but there'll be college football. But so that's the only week we'll have off from NFL until after the Super Bowl. So it should be. So I'm kind of looking forward to Saturday, and it should be a fun night to have football back. So those are my thoughts on. Like I said, I wanted to put something out for the opener, and we're coming up on the just past 16 minutes. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll come up with something next week. See y'all later.